Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my top 50 best animated films of all time. Well, here we are at the top 10 of our 50 film countdown. We have finally made it to the cream of the crop, my absolute favorite animated films of all time. But before we jump into the top 10, this is the fifth and final video in our series. So make sure you check out those other four videos to see which films have already made the list. Now just remember, these are my own personal favorite animated films of all time. That is the only criteria taken into account. And I know many of you all have lots of animated favorites that may not have made my personal list, and I look forward to hearing all of your favorite animated films in the comment section down below. Just keep it cute down there, and let's talk about our favorite medium. Now, before we kick off our top 10, let's go ahead and hear a few wonderful animated films that just barely missed the list. With so many amazing animated films throughout history, I could not contain myself to just talk about 50. Thus, we have some honorable mentions to get through before we delve into our top 10. The Fantastic Mr. Fox was the first animated effort from famed director Wes Anderson. With an all-star cast and a beautiful stop-motion animated style, this old story was given fresh new life with all of Anderson's flares. Grave of Fireflies is possibly one of the most heartbreaking and hard-to-watch animated films I've ever had to sit through, but it's highly important, with really poignant messaging that needed to be brought to the screen, and just as much beautiful imagery to match the haunting images that we experience. Not one that you often will want to return to, but one everyone should seek out at least once. The Incredibles 2 is a long-delayed sequel that ended up being nearly as good as the original, with really sophisticated messaging about family and growing both personally and as a family unit. This movie brought all of the action back to the big screen with wonderful laughs, great animation, and that super Incredibles heart that we had hoped to see nearly 20 years later. And now, for the final stretch of our countdown, let's get into the top 10. Kicking off our top 10, we have Aladdin, a childhood favorite that still holds up today. Aladdin is one of the many Disney Renaissance films that holds up as top tier for the Mouse House. I have to say, growing up as a young brown kid, a brown boy, if you will, Aladdin was kind of this beacon for me because although we didn't come from the same heritage or the same background, I loved and really related to Aladdin on that level and on a more personal level than I had really related to any of the other Disney characters. Plus, I've always loved Jasmine. That sass, that outfit, that style, everything about Jasmine. Top tier Disney princess for me. Plus, the sidekicks in this film are amazing. I mean, Raja is wonderful. Who doesn't want a frickin' pet tiger? Plus, Abu and the Magic Carpet are really fun and endearing as side characters. To mention, the music in Aladdin is amazing. From A Whole New World to A Friend Like Me, Prince Ali, One Jump Ahead. Oh, all of the music in this film is stellar. Of course, the animation is beautiful. This is right in the time during the Renaissance when Disney was heavily experimenting with mixing 2D classic animation with 3D elements, and they do it really well here. Yeah, we may have had to alter one of those lyrics, but overall, everything else about Aladdin is pretty much perfect. At number 9, I have My Neighbor Totoro, one of the quintessential Studio Ghibli films and the mascot for the entire studio. My Neighbor Totoro still holds up as my personal favorite Studio Ghibli film to date. This film really showcases how masterfully Ghibli as a studio incorporates the lore and the legends of Japanese culture, these demons and spirits, and adapts them to the scenario and the situation at hand. Whether it's something like No Face, or a scarecrow, or wolves and boars, or a big old teddy bear like Totoro, these spirits manifest themselves to the scenario and situation needed. And here we have two young girls who need a comforting presence as their mother fights for her life in the hospital. And that's what Totoro brings. And that's just so powerful to me and really resonates with me. Kids in Studio Ghibli as well can oftentimes really run on irritating to me. But that's the beauty of My Neighbor Totoro, is that these kids, they are rambunctious. They do get into hijinks. They are kids, but they are so earnest and so authentic in the portrayal that I never found them annoying or irritating. Instead, I just found them to be quite lovable and endearing. Plus, Totoro is one of the cutest, most adorable, amazing things to ever come out of animation. I love him as a character. Plus, we get the other fantastical elements, that sprites, who are also adorable, or the cat bus, which is such an insane concept, but so wonderful in the context of the film. A really wholesome, sweet, and endearing film that also deals with beautiful, deeper messages, as I said, of grief, but also it has that touch of environmentalism that Studio Ghibli is known for. But those just add depth and character to this wonderful story. Plus, the music is amazing, whether it be or the wonderful theme throughout. Oh, it's all just stellar. I really think this is a perfect Studio Ghibli film. At number 8, I have Inside Out. The most recent of the true Pixar classics for me personally. Inside Out is a masterclass. How do you teach children about emotions and the importance of emotions and how to express yourself? Well, Pixar showed us the way because Inside Out does just that perfectly. What a wonderful, important film for children to have. A movie about emotions and about dealing with them and handling them and bringing the emotions to life in a way that is both relatable and understandable to everyone. Hell, this is even an educational film for us adults. But this script that is put together here is so amazing, full of sophistication, while also bringing the adventure, the lighthearted humor, the gags. That world building inside of Riley's head is so amazing and just genius as we work through the world of the mind. Every little thing in there is perfect. The emotions themselves all have these wonderful characters and are beautifully brought to life by this amazing vocal cast. It's a film that is really heavy in what it is saying and really deep in the messages that it's presenting, but still allows us all to have a good time, to have fun, to cry, to laugh, to feel all of our own emotions, because it's sure to run you through the gambit as we move through. I think the score is wonderful. I love the music that is used in Inside Out. We have a lot of wonderful side characters, such as Bong, another one that could have just been weird and annoying, but instead you grow this huge attachment to it. Yeah, Inside Out is amazing. Coming in at number 7, I have Toy Story, the original Pixar classic. Toy Story still holds up as one of the best animated films to date. Now obviously, it holds a special place because it is truly groundbreaking. It really brought the idea and medium of 3D animation to the forefront, which of course is now the dominating presence in animation. However, it's this story and this insane, wonderful concept that puts it all over the edge. This idea about growing and developing and sharing is handled so well as we work through Woody and Buzz's friendship and their connection to their boy, Andy. Sid, our next door neighbor, is a truly terrifying villain for the first film with some very scary, creepy toys next door and a ferocious dog that all provide for quite the adversaries to overcome. But really, what works well is seeing Woody particularly grow throughout this film and learn to love and become friends with Buzz as we watch Buzz come to terms with the fact that he's a toy. And of course, their wonderful dedication to Andy, as well as their beautiful connection with all of the other toys. And this is one that certainly the animation is definitely aged. However, it has helped a bit thanks to the fact that our main characters are toys. So they still look great. It's just some of that other stuff that gets a bit wonky. But who cares when the storytelling, the jokes, and the heart are all this perfect? At number 6, I have Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Oh, talk about innovative animation. What in the world was this, and how do we get more of it? Because wow, Into the Spider-Verse blew my mind. Visually, absolutely stunning from just a visual standpoint. The way that they integrated so many different animated styles and blended them into this one film so perfect and seamlessly, trying to really emulate and bring a comic book style to life in a true to form fashion could have been very jarring, could have been very choppy, and honestly, quite ugly. And instead, they brought an artful masterpiece to the screen. The action looks amazing. The characters all look fantastic. Everything is fluid and beautiful. You can take each and every scene from this film, plop it out, and put it on your wall. That's how wonderfully this film is animated. And then we get to the story, which also could have been a disaster, taking a multiverse, much like you see in comic books, and crashing them down into one continuous story. But yet, they do it. Everybody gets a chance to shine. It all works for the greater good of the storyline. Peter B. Parker is such a wonderful Peter Parker and one of the best renditions of the character we've seen brought to a feature-length film to date. Seeing this man who is broken and who is coming to terms with his own responsibility as Spider-Man and what that means in this particular journey was really actually impactful. And getting to see his growth, his own self-discovery was really affirming to us and particularly to me as an audience member. And of course, we get Miles, who is one of the best superhero characters we've ever seen. And this is one of the best superhero origin stories we've ever seen. Miles goes through such a wonderful transformation to become this Spider-Man. It is not easy. He has to really work and really earn this title in the film. And when we finally get that moment, when we finally get that what's up danger, that leap of faith moment, it hits hard. It is so impactful and so beautiful. And that's because the script has really built us up and built this character to finally get that moment. Plus, his relationship with his father is amazing. And that moment outside the door is so heartfelt and beautiful. I loved the takes on all of these different characters that were so unlike the other versions we've seen, particularly Doc Ock and that curveball were thrown in the film. Amazing. Honestly, so much could have gone wrong with this film, and yet it turned out to become quite the animated masterpiece. I absolutely adore it. I'm so glad it was able to break through and win that Oscar for Best Animated Film. Spider-Verse really ushered in a new wave for the future of animation. Kicking off our top 5, I have How to Train Your Dragon. Yes, all three films of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise made my countdown. I told y'all, this series really just resonated with me in a particular way. And while the animation on the first film certainly is dated compared to the two sequels, it is still this first film that hits hardest. First of all, I just relate so much to the character of Hiccup, a rough and tough dad who ultimately loves his son but doesn't quite get his son. His son is this kind of small, squeaky, animal loving kid who doesn't want to go along with the ways that were set out in front of him. And that just really resonates with me on multiple levels. The relationship between Hiccup and his father is so beautiful in this film and is handled in one of the best ways I've ever seen this type of kid versus parent clash handled in animation. When we arrive to the final conclusion of their relationship by the end of this film, it is so well earned. It's been developed and worked and worked and worked from the very moment we start this movie. But of course, the most special aspect to the entire film is the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless, and that bond is amazing. It is so well established and developed through this film. And it's done through comedy, it's done through sweetness, and it's done through these amazing, epic, wonderful flight scenes. Talk about revolutionary, the animation to accomplish the animation and cinematography, because yes, cinematography is present in animation, to accomplish these flight scenes is stunning. And of course, this original score, one of the best original scores for an animated film of all time. It is stunning. Honestly, every single thing about How to Train Your Dragon touched me on a deeper level, really resonated with who I am as a person. It spawned one of my favorite animated franchises of all time. I adore this film, and so it just had to be included in my top 5. Coming in at number 4, I have Toy Story 3. Oh my gosh, I know this is sure to be quite the controversial placement for Toy Story 3. But once I rewatched these films in anticipation of this countdown, something just hits different when it comes to this third film. First of all, I think Lotso Bear is an amazing villain with a really great backstory, with a really wonderful backstory that leads to this deliciously evil, cuddly bear. He's just this really charismatic villain. He has fun, funny moments. I think he's a really well developed and perfectly executed villain. Plus, the idea of the daycare is a whole lot of fun. And once again, for the third movie in a row, we are given this idea of we have to get back to Andy. But this one is tinged with deeper ideas and deeper thoughts as the group at large feels abandoned and is ready to move on from Andy, while Woody let go and won't let go of that connection he's had with Andy. So that dynamic playing between Woody against the rest of the toys is really well handled in this film and provides for a great underlayer beneath the top adventure we go on. Plus, obviously, Andy is not the character that we really relate to or spend much time with in the series, but pretty much everybody in my age range and generation heavily, heavily related to Andy in this moment. It was just so special getting to have Andy literally grow up at the same rate as the rest of us. And for somebody who clearly still has toy type things all over the place, having to part with these things you've grown such a connection with still resonates with me to this day. Of course, that third act is perfect. In every single way, that third act is perfect. And I fully understand and recognize that Toy Story 3 still represents the end to Andy's story, while Toy Story 4 goes on to give us the end of Woody's kind of arc in the films. However, I still to this day stand that Toy Story 3 is the perfect ending to the franchise and really tied it up in a beautiful way that can't be beat. I adore this film. It hits everything I want from a Toy Story film. It gives me everything I want from a Pixar film. All of those feels. I mean, if you're not bawling by the end of this movie, I don't know. All of the laughs. And it steered away from so many pop culture references like the second one had. Toy Story 3 is perfect. At number 3, I have The Nightmare Before Christmas. Always a favorite. Always has been. Ever since I was a little youngin', I have adored The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, this probably has a lot to do with how much I love stop motion animation at large. But wow, the animation is so amazing in this film. The character designs are so cool and inventive, but the way they move and the fluidity is stellar. Jack, as a character, goes through this really important and interesting journey throughout the film. And honestly, one that is actually quite daring and sophisticated for an animated film. Just because you want to do something, maybe you shouldn't, and just because you want to be something, that's not how it always goes. And that's a really interesting idea and message for children, and one that we don't often see. But of course, the music in this movie is amazing. Banger after banger on this soundtrack. Jack is a wonderful character. Obviously, Sally is also wonderful. And her beautiful longing after him and that dynamic is quite magical. Again, this world building is amazing. This idea of having these towns or these areas where you go for the different holidays is so cool. This village of Halloween is amazing. The Oogie Boogie Man is wonderful and deliciously frightening for small children, which is just what you want. This is the perfect, 100% definitive, perfect family film for Halloween and for Christmas. This is my kind of Christmas movie too. Perfect all the way around. I love it. I love everything about it. The Nightmare Before Christmas will always be one of my favorite animated films of all time. So in our runner-up position, coming in at number 2, I have The Lion King. If you had asked me when I was 10 years old, this would have been number 1 on the list. Hands down, no contest. The Lion King is the first ever movie I saw in a movie theater. And wow, what an introduction, huh? Yes, it is Hamlet with lions. But wow, is it well done. First of all, the animation is absolutely beautiful in The Lion King. The character, the emotion, the charisma that is brought to these animals is wonderful. And the music, like every other Disney Renaissance film, the music, was out of this world amazing. Talk about one of the best opening scenes in film, period, animated or not. The Circle of Life playing as we zoom in on Pride Rock is not only iconic, it's quite simply epic. But all of the music, Hakuna Matata, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, of course we have Be Prepared as maybe the best villain song of all time. On top of all that, we have this amazing original score from the legendary composer Hans Zimmer to back up those original songs from Elton John. And the vocal acting in this film is also wonderful. Matthew Broderick as Simba really brings something to that character. A nice, soft vulnerability that has enough power and presence to show this beautiful development. And of course, James Earl Jones' iconic performance as Mufasa, bringing this regality, but also this warmth as a father. And of course, Jeremy Irons is perfect as Scar. Absolutely perfect. But the script is so well done as we update that classic story we know into this new fairy tale. Of course, Mufasa's death is one of the most dramatic experiences of my young life. I'll never get over it, but it's so beautifully handled. The music, the animation, the script, the performances, all of it is stunning. And that is why Lion King still sits at number 2 on my list. So here we are, the moment we have been building up toward. We've counted down number 50 all the way up to number 2. So, what's left? My number 1 favorite animated film of all time is Beauty and the Beast. This does mark 3 Disney Renaissance films in my top 10. What can I say? I was born in 91. And so, in fact, was Beauty and the Beast. Now, this beautiful classic wasn't my favorite growing up. It was one I definitely loved. It was one I watched, but it couldn't surpass the likes of Aladdin and The Lion King for me as a kid. However, as I began to grow up and continue to watch these Disney films and continue to grow with them, a new level of appreciation started to really grow when it came to Beauty and the Beast. All of the factors are there that I've mentioned for the past Renaissance films. The music is absolutely top tier. Of course, Beauty and the Beast marks one of the great Disney love ballads of all time. Be Our Guest, though. Oh, talk about a fantastic song for our side characters. And then when you give it this big, grand, beautiful animated sequence to go along with it, a true standout in a film full of them. We have Belle, we have Gaston. All of the music in this film is beautiful. The score is also wonderful. But honestly, it's this love story and it's these characters that sell Beauty and the Beast for me. Belle as a character has long been my favorite Disney princess, and honestly, one of my favorite Disney characters of all time. She is a compassionate and caring person who is still headstrong, independent, and wants to stand on her own and chase her dreams. A wonderful message for young girls. She's a smart character who loves learning and education and is ostracized for that in her small town. But it's her connection with her father, later on with the house servants, and of course, the Beast that really begin to endear you to who Belle is as a person. Obviously, Prince Adam, or the Beast, goes through both a physical but also a sweeping emotional and internal transformation throughout this film. And that connection and growth between the two of them is fully well earned. I don't want to hear any Stockholm Syndrome or none of that. It's not the case here. I'm sorry. It isn't. I don't buy it. And I think that the love story that is developed throughout this film feels organic and is beautiful to watch, and it's really well executed through the script. But on an animation level, this film is also revolutionary. This was Disney starting to foray into that 3D animation, and it's obviously very much present in that completely iconic ballroom scene where we get this amazing, seamless, and beautiful blend of 2D and 3D animation techniques that create something simply magical. Honestly, I think Beauty and the Beast is completely perfect. And yes, I've said that about a lot of films on this list because I think there are a lot of pretty much perfect animated films. But Beauty and the Beast just does everything to absolute perfection. Across the board, it is still one of the most stunning films I've ever seen, animated or otherwise, and made me fall in love with the romance, so it had to do something right. But for all of those reasons, Beauty and the Beast stands tall as my personal favorite animated film of all time. So that is it. Those are my picks for the 50 best animated films of all time, and these were my top 10. What did you think? Were there any surprises in this top 10? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And more importantly, I want to hear, what are your favorite animated films of all time? Let me know either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!